Good evening and good to have you with us on this edition of The Last Word. Today the big conversation, the big debate is going to be who is accountable for the safety, for the lives of Mumbaikars in this city. Every single day the infrastructure is crumbling and lives are being claimed. But before we go on to that big story where today a building collapsed and 10 lives have been lost, many more fear trapped in that debris. Before we go to this big conversation, I want to pick up a story that has come from Ranchi, from Jharkhand. Now what happened is, this girl who you're looking at on your screens, Richa Bharti, she got arrested for a Facebook post, for sharing a Facebook post. This post was allegedly a communal post filled with hate and bigotry, meant to hurt the religious sentiments of one community. For that, she was arrested, taken to jail. There were protests that were held. Right-wing groups got extremely outraged about the fact that she, who was speaking about her religion, was picked up and sent behind bars for a social media post. But that's not the story we want to debate tonight. We have on numerous accounts raised the issue of freedom of speech. We have on numerous accounts questioned why anybody should be arrested for a social media post. And today I don't want to focus on that. Today what I want to tell you is the unconventional order that the judicial magistrate, that the Ranchi court gave for her bail. Now they said you can get bail, you're free to go, provided you go about donating 5 Qurans. Donating in the sense that you buy these Qurans, you go and give one to an Islamic organization and 4 others give them to a library. Collect those receipts and come and show it to us. That's an unconventional order. That's an unconventional condition for bail. We've heard of community service. We've heard of doing good for the society. But to ask somebody to go and donate a religious holy book, which isn't of your religion, is very, very unconventional. Does this set the right precedent? Is this a good example to be set to put across the message of harmony and peace and tolerance? That is the big question. Now, before I go across to our panelists, very quickly, let's listen into what this girl had to say in her defense.
मेरे एक नॉर्मल पोस्ट के लिए हमको मस्जिद जाना पड़ेगा, कुरान बांटना पड़ेगा। पोस्ट मेरा नॉर्मल था, जो सबका पोस्ट, तो सबकी आईडी पे ऐसे पोस्ट आपको मिल जाएंगे। अपने एक भगवान के बारे में लिखना कुछ गलत नहीं है। हम ऐसा नहीं कि विशेष रूप से उनके धर्म को ठेस पहुंचाए हैं, ऐसा भी मेरा पोस्ट नहीं था। और वो पोस्ट मेरा खुद का लिखा हुआ नहीं था, वो आता है कटिंग पेस्ट, ये सब वही पोस्ट किए थे और कुछ गलत नहीं था। सर था तो मानेंगे, हम इज्जत करते हैं सर का जो फैसला आया है, लेकिन हमको लग रहा है ये सही नहीं है। हाँ, तो हम बोल रहे हैं कि ऐसे पोस्ट तो दूसरे समुदाय से होते हैं, तो क्या कभी उन्हें ऐसा किया गया उनके साथ कि तुम हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ लो, मंदिर मंदिर घूमो? लेकिन मेरे साथ ये पहली बार ऐसा हो रहा है, तो हम असंतुष्ट है इस फैसले से। गलत है ये फैसला। हम
So let's say good evening to Sanjay Hegde and Gaurang Kant, 2 legal voices that we've decided to speak to understand. Sanjay Hegde, coming to you first. There is obviously a massive outrage about this bail order that has been given. I found it odd, but is it unconstitutional? Is it illegal by any standards?
Well, it's certainly out of the ordinary. Having said that, I also find it odd that the girl concerned accepts the bail, walks out, and then says that she doesn't want to abide by the conditions. This is precisely why, forget this case, I always say that if you grant bail, you either grant it cleanly, don't make it contingent on some event in the future. You may be aware of many so-called rape cases where there is consent to marry and the fellow doesn't marry. Then sometimes bail is procured on the principle that he will marry the girl later. Thereafter, he again doesn't marry. So this kind of order leads to quite a bit of legal confusion. The judge's intention was good. The judge's intention was that it would not help keeping a 21-year-old girl in jail. Rather than that, if she did some kind of community service, which could be seen as an act of atonement, which could be seen as that she did not really mean what she said. So he probably thought that this was a good idea. But not every good idea or a humanitarian idea which comes into a judge's mind makes for good law. In law, she has the freedom of religion. Now, she could have very well asserted that freedom right there and told the judge, Judge, thank you very much for the bail, but if you tell me to distribute the Quran, I can't do it because my religious rights are involved. Then the judge could have taken a call. The judge could have said, okay, then I won't grant you bail. Or he would have said, okay, I will grant you bail and substituted some other condition. But she did nothing of that sort. She quietly went, took the bail, and now she has asked the rest of her troll army to raise a stink.
Yes. Well, okay, let me get in Gaurang Khan. Gaurang Khan, do you agree that she had the time, she had the opportunity, and let's also say good evening to Geeta Luthra at this point of time. But Gaurang, first to you, she had the time and the opportunity when the judge was deciding on the bail to say no to this condition. And so now it is not fair to say it infringes upon my right to religion, it goes against Article 15 or whatever, because you've agreed to it. Now you shouldn't be going back on it.
Well, absolutely. I think it's an afterthought. At the time when she was being granted bail, and this was a condition which was imposed by the court, she was well aware that what she needs to actually do. So to get the bail and then subsequently change your mind and then go and say that I'm not going to do and not fulfill the condition on which the judgment has been passed. But at the same time, I also say that, when a judge is actually granting a bail, and if there's a condition like this, it also reflects that we are kind of promoting a particular religion, which should not be the case when it comes to a judicial verdict or an order. That kind of a message should not go to the society. Maybe with all good intention, the judge has passed this order, but this kind of a condition should not be there, which it actually shows that maybe the judiciary is actually favoring X religion or Y religion, because the judiciary is supposed to be absolutely impartial. So I would say that, conditions of community service or something of that sort makes more sense to me rather than asking somebody to go and distribute Quran or for that matter Gita would not be the right thing to do, So I personally don't really agree with the kind of condition which has been imposed while granting her bail. And then subsequently we see the same side effect to that, where she's actually saying that it actually hinges on her, personal religious freedom. Right. And she's not really going to go and do that. So I think it is something which again calls for some, not really putting a condition like this where people can actually link it to their religion. We should not give that kind of a feeling to the society or to anybody where they can actually raise it to a religious, motive or a religious meaning can be given to it. So that kind of a thing should be restrained, I think, that the judiciary should actually do.
Well, I find it difficult to understand, but then, it depends on individuals' religious beliefs. Perhaps for some people, this is difficult to do, to take up the holy book of another religion and donate it or even distribute it and spread the message of tolerance. But Geeta Luthra, do you agree that as far as the judiciary is concerned, you shouldn't maybe cross this line and tell somebody to get involved with the holy scriptures of another religion?
So see, first we have to look at what is the purpose of bail and what is the rationale of bail. Bail is granted to a person if he is not accused of a heinous offense, or even if accused of a heinous offense, it's not likely that he will abscond, he or she will abscond, and it's not likely that they will tamper with evidence. So in a case like of this kind of nature, I don't think you can, or in any nature, you can't impose conditions like this. So you may be all for tolerance, you may be all for universal brotherhood, but the fact is, what is the judge's duty when he is looking, should I or should I not grant bail? And the parameters have been laid down time immemorial in Constitution Bench judgments, Gurbakh Singh Sibia, other judgments, then normally bail is the rule and not jail. And in a case of this nature, obviously, it is a case where bail ought to have been granted. Now the question is, what are the conditions that you impose? You normally don't impose harsh financial conditions. The only circumstance that you look at is this person going to tamper with evidence? Is this person going to run away? None of those things are there. These conditions, I mean, I'm not finding fault with the condition, but they are misplaced in law.
Okay.
So it's not the purview of a court of law to say, to distribute anything. Forget a religious book, to be distributing anything. So according to me, this is not the purview of a judge giving bail.
But this
and
one
I
we-
feel to that extent,
Right.
I would fault the order. Now the question is, should the girl have taken bail and then questioned it? I think she can. Because I think if it's something completely extraneous, if somebody tells me, please go for a walk 5 times the garden and I'll give you bail, I'm sorry, it's too extraneous. Maybe I'm giving an extreme example, but this has no rationale to the grant of bail.
Okay. No,
So to my mind,
but she accepted it
she
because
would
she's
be
out
well
on bail. So
within-
obviously that means that she's taken
it
up this
doesn't
condition.
matter. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. But even as a logical end to something like this, she could say, I've got my liberty, now I'm questioning the condition that has been imposed against me.
Okay.
And every day we challenge conditions imposed, which are harsh or onerous conditions. So in this, 1 minute, you may disagree, but just a minute. We would question conditions imposed if they are not germane to the law.
Okay.
And I think even very recently, Siddharam Maitre, earlier Gurbakh Singh Sibia, host of judgments. So the question, you have to look at the parameters why bail is given, and then in certain cases the court will say, okay, you'll have a surety so that we'll make sure that you come for the trial.
Okay.
But
So
other
I
conditions
think
are
both of our
called
other
for.
panelists
So any
disagree with you. Let me quickly go across to them. Sanjay Hegde
I know
first,
that.
and then Gaurang.
That's right.
Yes, Sanjay Hegde.
See, day in and day out, when, we are told by courts that if you concede something, if a counsel concedes something in court, and the court acts on the basis of that concession, then you can't withdraw that concession. Here, very clearly, the girl and her lawyer said, okay to the condition that the judge imposed. That was the concession made. After that, you cannot have the benefit of the order and then say no to the detriment. I think Geeta is absolutely right that when conditions are imposed, those conditions are challengeable. Very often it's a condition precedent that you will be given bail if you deposit X sum of money. In financial crimes, that often happens, and a person who continues to remain in prison then goes to a higher court and challenges it, saying, because of this condition, I cannot do so. Now, it would have been an entirely different case if the girl said, I will not walk out of jail. Here is the condition which prevents me from walking out of jail. Then a superior court could certainly have said, no, this condition does not work. But having availed the benefit of the order, it is not open to her to walk back on her concession. Either she says, okay, I am surrendering back to the court, send me to whatever custody and consider my bail afresh. If you want to give it to me unconditionally, give it to me unconditionally. If you want to impose conditions which I do not agree with, then I will take it up in appeal. That is the correct thing to have done. Here she wants both to have a cake and to eat it too. and then wants to be a heroine or a martyr in the process. I don't see her as that.
Okay, is all of this also getting played out on a larger high-pitch scale because the state goes to elections? Well, I'm sure the viewers also understand these nuances, but very quickly, one last response from Mr. Gaurang Kant, and then we wrap up this conversation. Mr. Gaurang, go ahead, please.
Well, absolutely. I think I totally subscribe to the same view as Mr. Hegde, to that extent that, once she has already availed the benefit of walking out of the jail, and then to go back and, say that, I don't agree to the condition on which the court has actually granted her the bail would not be the right thing to do. And this is something which is, if she has to challenge it, probably she should go back to the jail and say that, this condition is not something which I can actually fulfill. And she has the liberty to do that. But then to avail the benefit and then go back on it is something which is not right. And this is not in judicial propriety at all and can be looked at from the angle of a contempt too.
Okay, so we'll wait and watch what happens if this actually gets challenged, if the condition to her bail actually gets challenged in a higher court, or if we're just looking to create some noise because, well, election season, and who doesn't like a communal, controversy brewing every single day when it is election season. Here is what I think about it, and I've gone through in detail some of these posts that this girl has put up, and frankly I find them extremely disgusting. What she has written day after day, it's not just about one single post. She may have been arrested on those charges, but almost on a daily basis some of her comments and then the posts that she shares on her social media are full of bigotry, are full of hate for one specific religion. While saying that, I still don't believe that she should be arrested and she should be put behind bars. You have your freedom to share, to express yourself, and for a social media post, nobody should really be arrested and put behind bars. Having said that, if the judge's intention was to make her do some kind of community service, to actually go and donate some holy books, donate some Qurans, and in the process maybe learn a little bit about the other religion, learn a little bit more about the other culture, and become a little bit more tolerant, I don't think that's happening. If anything, what she's been saying, by the second, it is becoming more and more brazen and more communal. So that attempt of the judge of Ranchi court seems to have failed. Will it stand the judicial test? That remains to be seen. Thank you so much for joining us on this short conversation. We move on.